I'm ready. I'm so sorry.
Hello everyone, my name is KPantella and for my Burbank senior project I chose to study elementary education. During the summer I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to focus my project on. I looked into occupational therapy, nursing, engineering, but nothing really excited me. So I had a discussion with my mom and she just said, why don't you do something that you're a little bit interested in and something you think would be fun. So I chose teaching because over the summer I worked with students at a summer camp and I love teaching them new skills, and I also love working with kids. So for my internship, I job shadowed with Leah Wimmer, who was a first grade teacher at Daniel Green Primary School. Ms. Wimmer was very nice, and she allowed me to come into the classroom multiple times throughout my first semester. I was able to come in for 2 full days and for a few half days just because I take online classes so I can leave early. And I loved coming in on the full days because I could see the full rotation of all the subjects being taught in the classroom, where on the half days I could only see the same 2 or 3 subjects. It was also very interesting to see the students adapt from changing subject to subject because it's very different where in high school we move from classroom to classroom learning with different students being taught by different teachers. In first grade, you're taught by the same teacher and you're taught different subjects in the same room with the same students. While I was at my internship, I was able to work a lot with kids. Um, I helped them with writing in their journals, where it was learning different vocabulary, spelling, and a lot of the times they made their letters backwards. So I had to help remind them the correct way to do that. In math, we worked on addition and subtraction problems, graphing, identifying money, and a lot of the times throughout the day, Ms. Wimmer would allow the students to get into small groups. So I would usually man a station and um, basically guide the students, help them with the subject. If they had any questions, I was there to answer them. At the internship, I was also able to observe Ms. Wimmer and her different teaching strategies. One thing I learned at the internship is that it's important for a teacher to have a variety of different ways of explaining things. Not every student, especially at this small age, will be able to understand something the first time they're taught it. Sometimes they need to be explained one-on-one, or they need to be have shown it visually. This is a behavior chart that was found in the classroom, and so how it works is that all the students start their day off in this blue section right here. Throughout the day, depending on if they're doing good deeds or bad deeds, they can move up and down the chart. So if they do something good, like encourage another student, they can move up the chart. If they do something bad, like screaming in the hallways, they move down the chart. After, depending on where they are at the end of the day, they get a certain number of stickers to fill their own individual little charts that they have. And so when they fill up those charts, they get a reward. It could be something like choosing a prize from the prize box, getting to sit in a beanbag chair all day, eating lunch with the teacher. And so I saw that a large portion of the classroom activity was revolved around this chart and being rewarded. So I was wondering how that was truly affecting the students. So I developed a research question, which is how do extrinsic rewards affect student motivation and learning, and what are the best way for teachers to implement these rewards in the classroom? The self-determination theory, defined by Edward Ritchie and Richard Ryan, defines the different types of motivation. There are 2 types of motivation: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is to be motivated to do something because you enjoy it. You can be motivated to, intrinsically motivated to read, to exercise, things like that. Extrinsic motivation is the motivation to do something because a reward is offered. For example, I do not like calculus, but I work hard in the class so I can get a good grade. The grade is my reward. Intrinsic motivation produces behaviors that lead to student success in the classroom. There have been studies that have shown there is a positive correlation between intrinsic motivation and academic achievement. Sadly, it's hard for teachers and people to find intrinsic motivation while they're in school. The National Research Council found that 40% of students are disengaged while they're at school. Another study found that 69% of high school dropouts um, said their schools failed to motivate them. So intrinsic motivation is hard to find in the classroom, especially when students grow older, because the importance of rewards such as grades and monies increases. And rewards are actually distracting students from learning. So the problem is teachers often rely on rewards to get students to participate and to keep them interested in the classroom. Extrinsic rewards, again, they take attention away from learning. For a great example is vocabulary quizzes. I know a lot of the students in here probably fall under the same boat as what I'm about to explain. The teachers will give vocabulary words and definitions for the students to learn to take a quiz. They will study the words, take the quiz, probably do great. Now, if that teacher were to give the same vocabulary quiz 2 months later, then the students will probably not be able to recall the vocabulary word definitions. This is because the students memorized the definitions just to get a good grade on the quiz, and they didn't actually learn the definition of the word and retain the information. A lot of teachers are unaware of the effects of giving rewards to students, and the National Council on Teacher Quality examined 105 teacher education programs. Of those programs, 51% did not address student engagement, and 57% did not address student motivation. So teachers are not really being educated on the effects of rewards and motivation in the classroom. Now, teachers can't fully eliminate rewards because not everyone is going to be interested in what they're learning and not everyone's going to want to participate. So a great solution, so they still can use rewards, it's just they have to use them sparingly. In order to decrease the amount of rewards in the classroom, a great way is to offer praise. Praise is one strategy to basically a reward, but it's not a physical reward. And so praise is best offered when it's given within 24 hours of the good deed, or it's recommended that teachers give a 4-to-1 ratio of praise to reprimanding statements. For my community service portion of my project, I worked at the Hope Tutoring Program, which is a program in Sterlingsville, Virginia, and HOPE stands for Help Offered for Primary Education. While I was there, I worked with 2 students. Both of the students were struggling in reading, so I made it a priority that we worked on reading each session. So we read for 20 minutes, then we worked on other homework they had, whether it was math, reading, vocabulary, science, social studies, anything. I helped them complete it. My 2 community service advisors were Karen Eulin and Jenny Morris. They are both co-leaders of the program. I was mainly in contact with Karen Eulin just because she's part of the school system and she was easier to get in contact with. She was very available. And when I was discussing my legacy portion of my project with them, they both said, I first wanted to have a materials drive because I saw that they were kind of in need of markers and dry erase boards, things like that. So I explained to them what I wanted to do, and they said, no, we don't really need that kind of thing. We would like to see educational games in our program. A lot of students get bored after they finish their homework, and they just want something else for the students to do and to continue to learn. So that's exactly what I did. I created 5 educational games for the program that focused on math and vocabulary. This is one game I entitled Exact Math. So what I did was I took a plastic Easter egg and I split it into 2 halves. The top of the Easter egg had a multiplication problem on it, and the bottom of the egg said the answer. Students then had to mix up the pieces and try to match the problem with the correct answer. These 2 girls loved this game. They actually played it the entire 45 minutes, so they really enjoyed it. This is another game I created called Vocabulary Twister. It's basically the same thing as regular Twister, but in order for the students to put their hand or their foot on one of the dots, they have to answer one of these vocabulary flashcards. And the flashcards ask them to either read a word or to spell a word. This was the favorite game overall. Students were literally fighting to play it, which I was very proud about. A lot of the students overall loved the games. I had one student tell me that she'd rather play the games than work with her tutor, and I personally took that as a compliment. Next year, I will be attending Virginia Tech to major in hospitality and tourism management. I definitely think that if the hospitality major does not work out, I will go into education. I was very shocked on how much I loved working with the kids, being in the classroom setting. I loved it. I never thought any part of this project was really boring. And yeah, I was just very surprised. For Vervik seniors, I would just tell them to enjoy your senior year. It goes by so fast. Every, everyone tells you that, but it really does. Scholarships, college applications, deadlines for this project makes it go by so fast. And also enjoy the time you have left with your Vervigs peers. I have some of the closest friendships in my Vervigs class, and I'm sad to see us all separate next year, but I know we'll find each other again and have a great time like we usually do. Thank you. Any questions? When I first started the project and developed a question, I originally thought that rewards were great. Why would teachers be like have? Why would teachers have rewards in their classroom, and like they would be bad for students? As I did my research, I was starting to find out that extrinsic rewards actually are not a great thing, and students should be more intrinsically motivated in order to continue to learn. So that really shocked me. Yes.
I was a math teacher. And I never gave kids like chocolate for doing math. Like, dude. So like, what advice would you give, say, a math teacher, as to how you said 40% of kids are disengaged in school?
Mm-hmm.
So just sort of after going through this whole process, and a math teacher came up to me and said, "What? How do I engage my kids? What advice do you have?"
Another way to help with rewards is to implement a more intrinsically motivated environment. So do things where kids can choose the certain projects that they want or the certain problems that they want to solve, and maybe switch it up a little bit sometimes. Maybe don't tell them that there's a grade on something, and maybe they'll participate, and then if they learn that some things may be graded, some things not, then they'll try their best on everything.
Okay, thank you.